The Midnight Visitor. When dreams feel like prophecy, close your eyes for a moment. Breathe deeply. Right now, in this stillness, imagine yourself waking suddenly from a vivid dream. Your heart is racing. The images are so clear, so undeniably real, that you can still feel the textures, smell the air, hear the voices. And then hours or days later, something happens. An event unfolds that mirrors what you dreamed. The person you saw appears. The conversation you heard echoes in reality. The place you visited materializes. Your mind floods with wonder and a touch of inexplicable awe. You think to yourself, how is this possible? Did I somehow see into the future? Was my dream a window into tomorrow? This experience is not rare. Countless people throughout history and across every culture have reported this phenomenon. It feels profound. It feels real. And in those moments of recognition when dream and reality seem to align, we stand at the threshold between the rational and the mysterious, between coincidence and destiny. Before we begin our exploration of this fascinating intersection, I invite you to subscribe to the Relaxing Science channel. Give this video a like and share your location and the time below. Your perspective matters in this journey. The question of precognitive dreams has captivated human imagination for millennia. Ancient civilizations believed that dreams were messages from the gods, windows into fate itself. Pharaohs consulted dream interpreters before making decisions about war and governance. Greek oracles were said to receive visions during sleep. Medieval monks recorded their dreams as divine communications. Even today, in our modern, scientifically sophisticated world, the belief in prophetic dreams persists powerfully. It appears across religions, philosophies, and personal testimonies. People speak of premonitions that saved their lives, dreams that predicted the birth of children, visions that warned of danger. Yet here lies the beautiful paradox. We live in an age where we understand more about the human brain than ever before. We can see it thinking. We can map its electrical activity. We can observe which regions activate during different experiences. We can measure neurotransmitters and hormones. We can study sleep in laboratories with unprecedented precision. And what neuroscience reveals about dreams is not less wondrous than the old beliefs, but different in kind. It is a wonder not of mystical prediction, but of the brain's extraordinary capacity to process information, to detect patterns, to create meaning from chaos. The truth about precognitive dreams lies not in supernatural foresight, but in the remarkable architecture of human consciousness itself. It resides in how your brain processes information while you sleep, how memory works, how pattern recognition shapes your perception, how emotion colors your recollection. It exists in statistical probability and the mathematics of coincidence. It emerges from confirmation bias and selective attention. It rises from the deep human need to find meaning in a universe that often feels random and uncontrollable. This journey we are about to take together is not one that diminishes the wonder of dreams. Rather, it illuminates it from a different angle. When you understand why dreams feel so real, why coincidences feel so meaningful, why your brain is such a powerful pattern-seeking machine, you do not lose the magic. You discover a deeper magic. You recognize that your mind is capable of processing information in ways you cannot consciously access. You understand that intuition is not mystical, but neurological. You learn that coincidence is not meaningless, but statistically inevitable. You grasp that the human experience of meaning-making is itself a profound phenomenon worthy of awe. Throughout this exploration, we will move gently through the science of sleep, memory, pattern recognition, and perception. We will understand how your brain creates the sensation of precognition without actually predicting the future. We will examine the psychological mechanisms that make coincidences feel like destiny. We will explore the cultural narratives that reinforce our beliefs about prophetic dreams. And we will arrive at a place of deeper understanding, where science and wonder coexist peacefully, where rational thought does not diminish the beauty of the unknown, but rather illuminates it. As you listen, allow yourself to relax. There is no pressure here to believe or disbelieve. There is only an invitation to understand, to observe your own mind with gentle curiosity, to recognize the extraordinary capabilities of your brain, you may find yourself drifting into a state of calm contemplation. That is precisely where we want to be. The insights we explore together are best received not in a state of analytical tension, but in a state of open, receptive awareness. So settle yourself, make yourself comfortable, let your breathing become slow and steady. We are about to descend into the nocturnal world of your mind, where the most extraordinary things happen while you are seemingly asleep. The exploration begins now. In the pages that follow, we will uncover the scientific foundations that explain why dreams feel prophetic, why coincidence feels meaningful, and why your brain is perhaps the most remarkable pattern recognition device in the known universe. We will discover that the answer to the question of precognitive dreams is not simply yes or no, but rather something far more nuanced and fascinating. We will learn that the real miracle is not that your brain can predict the future, but that it can do what it does every single night: process vast amounts of information, consolidate memories, solve problems, create meaning, and generate the vivid, emotionally resonant experiences we call dreams. This is the story of that nightly miracle, the architecture of sleep, where dreams are born. Your brain never truly rests. Even as your body lies still and your conscious mind releases its grip on the world, an intricate symphony of neural activity continues its eternal performance. Sleep is not a state of inactivity, but rather a state of profound reorganization. It is during these hours of apparent quiet that some of the most important work of your mind occurs. To understand why dreams feel so real, why they seem to carry the weight of prophecy, we must first understand the architecture of sleep itself, the stages through which your brain cycles, and the neurological conditions that give rise to the vivid experiences you encounter in the darkness. Sleep is not monolithic. It is not a single uniform state that your brain enters and remains in until morning arrives. Instead, sleep is a dynamic process composed of distinct stages, each with its own characteristics, its own neurological signature, its own purpose. These stages cycle through the night in a predictable pattern, like waves moving across an ocean. Understanding these cycles is crucial to understanding dreams, because dreams do not occur uniformly throughout sleep. They are concentrated in particular stages, under particular neurological conditions, and these conditions are what make dreams feel so vivid and so real. The journey into sleep begins with what is called light sleep, or stage 1 and stage 2 non-REM sleep. During these initial stages, your brain waves begin to slow from the rapid, irregular patterns of wakefulness into the more organized patterns of sleep. Your body temperature drops slightly, your heart rate decreases, your muscles begin to relax. The external world seems to fade. Though you are not yet fully asleep, you can still be awakened easily. If someone speaks your name, you will hear it. If a sudden noise occurs, you will stir. This is the threshold between two states of consciousness, and it is a relatively brief passage. But as sleep deepens, you enter what is called deep sleep, or stage 3 non-REM sleep. This is the sleep of profound physical restoration. Your brain waves slow dramatically into what are called delta waves, the slowest brain waves that occur during wakefulness or sleep. These are the waves associated with the deepest level of unconsciousness. During this stage, your body undergoes significant restoration. Growth hormone is released, your immune system strengthens, your muscles repair themselves, your metabolic processes slow. If you were to be awakened during this stage, you would feel profoundly disoriented, as if emerging from a very deep place. Deep sleep is important for physical restoration, but it is not where vivid dreams typically occur. The dreams that feel most real, most immersive, most like waking experience, occur during a different stage entirely. This stage is called REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement sleep. The name comes from the distinctive feature of this stage. Despite the fact that your eyes are closed, they move rapidly back and forth beneath your eyelids, as if you are looking around at something. This is one of the most distinctive and remarkable features of this sleep stage. During REM sleep, something extraordinary happens in your brain. Your brain waves accelerate and become more similar to the patterns they display during wakefulness. Your brain is in many ways as active during REM sleep as it is when you are awake and alert, yet your body is profoundly paralyzed. A neurotransmitter called acetylcholine floods your brain, while the levels of norepinephrine, a neurotransmitter crucial for logical thought and critical analysis, plummet. The result is that you are conscious, your brain is active. You are experiencing vivid sensations and narratives, yet you cannot move, and your brain is not engaging its usual reality-checking mechanisms. This neurological state is precisely what makes dreams feel so real. Your visual cortex is active, generating images. Your auditory cortex is active, generating sounds. Your motor cortex is active, creating the sensation of movement and action, even though your body is paralyzed. Your emotional centers, particularly the amygdala, are highly active, generating intense feelings. Yet your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for logic, critical thinking and reality assessment, is relatively quiet. The result is that you experience a world that feels completely real, that seems to follow its own logic, that generates emotions as intense as waking emotions, yet you cannot apply your usual reality-checking mechanisms to question it. A typical night of sleep follows a predictable pattern. You enter light sleep, then deeper sleep, then even deeper sleep. After about 90 minutes, your brain begins to transition into REM sleep. This first REM period might last only 10 or 15 minutes. Then you cycle back into deeper sleep. As the night progresses, the cycles continue. But with each cycle, something changes. The deep sleep stages become shorter, while the REM sleep stages become longer and more intense. By the end of the night, you may spend 30 minutes or more in a single REM period. By the time morning approaches, you are cycling through REM sleep more frequently and spending more time there. This is why many of your most vivid dreams occur in the hours just before you wake. During these extended REM periods, the content of your dreams is generated by a brain that is in a unique state of consciousness. Your brain is generating narratives, creating scenarios, populating them with characters and situations. These narratives are not created by your conscious mind, which is essentially offline. Instead, they are generated by deeper brain structures. Your brain is not trying to predict the future. It is not receiving messages from some external source. Rather, it is processing information, consolidating memories, working through emotional material, making associations, and generating experiences based on the vast database of information stored in your neural networks. The vividness of dreams during REM sleep is not an accident. It serves important functions. Dreams appear to be involved in memory consolidation, particularly the consolidation of emotional memories and complex procedural memories. Dreams seem to play a role in emotional processing and regulation. Dreams may help your brain work through problems and challenges you face in waking life. The emotional intensity of dreams, the way they feel so real, the way they engage your entire brain in immersive narratives, all of this appears to be part of the mechanism by which your brain accomplishes these important functions. And here is where the seeds of precognitive dreams are planted. Because your brain is so active during REM sleep, because it is generating such vivid and emotionally intense experiences, because these experiences feel completely real, and because your brain is not engaging its reality-checking mechanisms, dreams carry a particular weight and presence. They feel important. They feel significant. They feel like they might mean something. When you wake from a vivid dream, it does not feel like a mere random firing of neurons. It feels like an experience. And if that dream later seems to connect with waking reality, the feeling of significance intensifies. But to understand why that connection feels so meaningful, why coincidence feels like destiny, we must move beyond the neurology of sleep and into the neurology of pattern recognition. Pattern recognition, your brain's ancient survival tool. Your brain is, fundamentally, a pattern recognition machine. This is not a flaw in its design. It is the core of its genius. Throughout millions of years of evolution, the brains of your ancestors faced a world of overwhelming complexity and constant danger. Every moment presented choices. Every choice could be a matter of survival or death. In such an environment, the ability to quickly recognize patterns, to detect regularities in chaos, to anticipate what might happen based on what has happened before, became one of the most valuable capabilities a brain could possess. Consider an ancient human standing at the edge of a savanna. The grass rustles. Is it wind? Is it a predator? Is it prey? There is no time for careful analysis. there is only time for pattern recognition. Your ancestors who could quickly recognize patterns, who could detect the subtle signs that indicated danger or opportunity, who could anticipate what might happen next, based on patterns they had observed, survived, and reproduced. Your ancestors who were slower at pattern recognition, who needed to carefully analyze every situation before responding, were more likely to be eaten by predators or to miss opportunities for food. Over millions of years, natural selection shaped your brain to be exquisitely sensitive to patterns, to be eager to find patterns, to see patterns even where they might not exist. This pattern recognition capability is remarkable and wonderful. It allows you to learn language by detecting patterns in sounds and meanings. It allows you to recognize faces instantly, even when they are partially obscured or seen from unusual angles. It allows you to understand the intentions of others by detecting subtle patterns in their behavior and expressions. It allows you to navigate the world with a sophistication and grace that would be impossible if you had to consciously analyze every aspect of every situation. Your pattern recognition abilities are so fundamental to human cognition that you rely on them constantly, usually without any conscious awareness that you are doing so. But this same capability that makes you so intelligent and so capable also creates vulnerabilities. Your brain does not just recognize patterns that are genuinely there. Your brain is also eager to find patterns, to create patterns, to impose patterns on randomness. This eagerness to find patterns is so strong that your brain will sometimes see patterns where none actually exist. This tendency is called apophenia, and it is a fundamental aspect of human cognition. Your brain would rather see a pattern that is not there than miss a pattern that is. This makes evolutionary sense. In the ancestral environment, the cost of missing a real pattern could be death. The cost of seeing a pattern that is not there is usually minimal. Better to be overly cautious, to see threats that are not there, than to miss actual threats. This pattern-seeking tendency manifests in many ways. If you look at clouds, you see shapes and faces. If you listen to random noise, you sometimes hear words or music. If you look at a collection of random dots, you can often see patterns or images. This is not a failure of perception. This is your brain doing what it evolved to do, finding patterns. And this pattern-seeking tendency is profoundly relevant to understanding why dreams feel precognitive. Consider what happens when you have a vivid dream. Your brain generates a narrative. It includes specific details, specific people, specific situations, specific emotions. You dream of a friend you have not thought about in weeks. You dream of a place you visited years ago. You dream of a conversation with a particular content or tone. Then you wake up. And then days or weeks later something happens. You receive an unexpected call from the friend you dreamed about. You encounter the place you dreamed of. You have a conversation similar to the one you dreamed. What your conscious mind registers is, I dreamed this, and then it happened. This feels like a pattern. This feels like a connection. Your brain leaps to the conclusion that you somehow predicted the future. But let us consider the actual statistics involved. How many dreams do you have in a night? Research suggests that people typically have 4 to 6 REM periods each night, and they may have multiple dreams during each REM period. So you might have 20 or more dreams per night. Over a year, that is thousands of dreams. Most of these dreams you will not remember, but some you will. And of the ones you remember, they include vast amounts of detail. These dreams reference people you know, places you know, situations you encounter in your daily life, emotions you experience regularly. Now consider how many events occur in your waking life. You encounter hundreds of people, either directly or through media. You visit many places, you experience many conversations, you encounter many situations. The probability that some detail from one of your thousands of dreams will match some event in your waking life is not infinitesimal. It is actually quite high. In fact, if no dreams matched waking events, that would be statistically surprising. The remarkable thing is not that some dreams match waking events. The remarkable thing would be if none of them did. Your brain's pattern recognition system detects this match and signals importance. This feels like more than coincidence, but this is where the pattern recognition system that served your ancestors so well in the African savannah leads you astray in the modern world. Your brain is designed to notice patterns and to treat them as meaningful. But not all patterns that your brain detects are meaningful. Some patterns are simply the result of probability and statistics. Some patterns are the inevitable result of the sheer volume of information your brain processes and generates. This pattern recognition tendency becomes even more powerful when combined with emotion. If you dream about something that makes you feel anxious or afraid, and then something vaguely similar happens, the emotional intensity of the dream makes the pattern feel more real, more significant. If you dream about someone you care about, and then you happen to encounter them or hear from them, the emotional resonance of the dream makes the connection feel profound. Your brain is not just recognizing patterns. Your brain is recognizing patterns that feel important, that carry emotional weight, that seem to have personal significance. The ancient pattern recognition system that allowed your ancestors to survive in dangerous environments is still operating in your brain today. It is still eager to find patterns. It is still treating patterns as meaningful. But in the modern world, with its vastly greater information density, with its exposure to far more people and places and situations than your ancestors ever encountered, this pattern-seeking tendency sometimes leads to false conclusions. It leads to the experience of precognition, when what is actually occurring is the recognition of a coincidental pattern that matched your dream. Memory's selective lens, the illusion of accuracy. You believe that you remember things accurately. When you recall an event from your past, it feels like you are retrieving a faithful record of what actually happened, like you are accessing a video recording stored in your brain. This intuition feels correct. Your memories feel real, they feel specific. They include details. They seem to preserve the truth of what occurred. But this intuition is profoundly misleading. Memory is not a recording device. It is not a faithful archive of past events. Memory is a reconstruction. Every time you remember something, you are not retrieving a fixed record. You are actively reconstructing an experience based on fragmented information, influenced by your current beliefs, your current emotional state, your current knowledge, and the power of suggestion. This insight into the nature of memory is not recent. Neuroscientists and psychologists have been studying memory for decades. They have conducted thousands of experiments. They have examined how memory works, how it fails, how it can be manipulated, how it can be distorted. And the picture that emerges is one in which memory is far more malleable, far more subject to influence, far more prone to error than most people realize. Your brain does not store memories like files in a computer. Your brain reconstructs memories from distributed patterns of neural activation. And this reconstruction process is influenced by many factors beyond the original event. Consider how you remember a dream. You wake up from a vivid dream. For a few moments, you have a clear recollection of the dream. You might remember the visual imagery, the emotions you felt, the narrative of the dream. But even in these first moments after waking, the memory is already beginning to fade and to be reconstructed. The visual imagery becomes less clear, the details become less precise. The emotions may persist, but the specific details of what caused those emotions become harder to recall. If you do not write down or speak about the dream immediately, the memory begins to change more significantly. By the time you encounter something in waking life that seems to match your dream, you have already reconstructed your memory of the dream multiple times. Each reconstruction is influenced by your current knowledge, your current beliefs, and the new information you have encountered since the dream. If you believe that your dream was precognitive, this belief will influence how you remember the dream. Your brain will unconsciously emphasize the aspects of the dream that match the waking event and downplay or forget the aspects that do not match. This process is called confabulation, and it is a normal, universal feature of human memory. Confabulation is not lying. You are not consciously trying to deceive anyone, including yourself. Rather, confabulation is the process by which your brain fills in gaps in memory, reconstructs incomplete information, and creates a coherent narrative from fragmented information. Your brain is extraordinarily good at this process. It fills in gaps so seamlessly that you are not aware that the gaps exist. You feel like you remember accurately, even though you are actually remembering a reconstructed and modified version of what actually happened. Consider a simple example. You dream that you are in a car with your sister and you are driving down a road. The road is familiar, but you cannot quite place it. There are other details in the dream that are vague or unclear. You wake up. A few days later, you are driving with your sister down a particular road. The road is familiar to you both. It is a road you have traveled many times. After the drive, you remember your dream. And now, as you recall the dream, your brain has filled in the vague details. The road in the dream was the same road you just drove on. The car in the dream was your car. The situation in the dream matches the waking event. You remember the dream as having been more specific and more accurate than it actually was. Your brain has reconstructed the dream memory to match the waking event. This kind of memory reconstruction happens constantly. It is not a rare phenomenon. It is the normal way that memory works. And it is particularly powerful when you are looking for connections between dreams and waking events. Because you are actively searching for matches, because you are primed to notice similarities, your brain is particularly likely to reconstruct dream memories in ways that emphasize the similarities and downplay the differences. Furthermore, you tend to remember the dreams that seem to match waking events and to forget the dreams that do not. This selective memory is called the frequency illusion, and it is a crucial factor in creating the sense that dreams are precognitive. You have thousands of dreams over the course of a year. Most of them do not match anything in your waking life. These dreams are forgotten almost immediately. You do not remember them. They do not contribute to your sense of whether dreams are precognitive, but the few dreams that do seem to match waking events are remembered. They are rehearsed. They are told to others. They are reinforced in memory. So the only dreams you have in your conscious memory are the ones that seem to match something in waking life. This creates a systematic bias. It creates the illusion that a high percentage of your dreams are precognitive, when in fact, a very small percentage of your dreams are remembered. And of those remembered dreams, only a tiny fraction actually match waking events. The human brain is not good at understanding statistics and probability. Your brain evolved in an environment where you dealt with immediate, concrete experiences, not abstract statistics. Your brain is good at remembering specific instances, specific events, specific cases. But your brain is not good at thinking about base rates, frequencies, and overall probabilities. So when you remember a few dreams that seem to match waking events, these specific cases feel convincing. They feel like evidence, but they are not representative of the actual frequency of such matches. They are the only cases you remember because they are the only cases that seemed meaningful. Additionally, memory is influenced by emotion. Emotionally intense experiences are remembered better than emotionally neutral experiences. Dreams that involve strong emotions are remembered better than dreams that are emotionally flat. If you have a vivid, emotionally intense dream, you are more likely to remember it. And if the dream matches something in waking life, the emotional intensity of the dream means you are more likely to rehearse the memory, to tell others about it, to reinforce it in your own mind. This creates another layer of bias. You are more likely to remember and to treat as significant the dreams that are both emotionally intense and that seem to match waking events. So memory is not a neutral recording of what actually happened. Memory is a selective, reconstructed, emotion-influenced, and statistically biased version of what actually happened. And this fact is crucial to understanding why dreams seem precognitive. Because your memory of the dream has been reconstructed to match the waking event. Because you only remember the dreams that seem to match something. Because you selectively emphasize the similarities and downplay the differences, it feels like your dream predicted the future. But what is actually happening is that your memory is being reconstructed to create an apparent match between dream and waking event. Confirmation bias, seeing what we expect to see. There is a powerful mechanism operating in your mind at every moment. It is so pervasive, so constant, so fundamental to how you think that you are usually completely unaware of it. This mechanism is called confirmation bias, and it is the tendency to search for, to interpret, to favor, and to recall information in a way that confirms your pre-existing beliefs. Confirmation bias is not a flaw that only affects certain people. It is a universal feature of human cognition. Everyone exhibits confirmation bias. You exhibit confirmation bias. And confirmation bias plays a crucial role in creating the illusion that dreams are precognitive. To understand confirmation bias, imagine that you hold a belief. You believe that dreams can predict the future. This belief might come from personal experience, from cultural tradition, from stories you have heard, from your desire to believe that there is something more to human experience than the purely material and mechanistic. You hold this belief. Now you go through your daily life. You encounter information constantly. You have dreams. You observe events in your waking life. You encounter stories that other people tell you about their dreams. You read articles or watch videos about dreams and precognition. You are constantly receiving information. Confirmation bias operates by influencing how you process this information. When you encounter information that confirms your belief that dreams are precognitive, your mind treats it as significant. You pay attention to it. You remember it. You tell others about it. You weave it into your understanding of how the world works. You might think about it later, reinforcing it in your memory. But when you encounter information that contradicts your belief, something different happens. You might dismiss it. You might not pay as much attention to it. You might interpret it in a way that is consistent with your existing belief. You might forget it. You do not weave it into your understanding of how the world works in the same way. This is not a conscious process. You are not deliberately trying to confirm your beliefs. Rather, this is an automatic, unconscious process that occurs in your brain. Your brain is constantly filtering information, deciding what to pay attention to, deciding what to remember, deciding what to treat as significant. And this filtering process is influenced by your existing beliefs. Consider how this operates specifically in relation to dreams and precognition. You have a vivid dream. You dream that you are in a meeting with your boss, and the meeting goes badly. You feel anxious in the dream. You wake up. A few days later, you have a meeting with your boss. Perhaps the meeting goes well. Perhaps it goes badly. Perhaps it is somewhere in between. But if the meeting goes badly, or even if it just has some aspect that matches your dream, you will likely connect the dream to the waking event. Your confirmation bias will lead you to focus on the ways that the meeting matched your dream, and to downplay or ignore the ways that it did not match. But imagine an alternative scenario. Imagine that you have the same dream about a meeting with your boss, but then in the days following the dream, you do not have a meeting with your boss. A week passes, a month passes. You never have the meeting you dreamed about. What happens to your memory of the dream? Most likely you forget it. You do not think about it. It does not contribute to your sense of whether dreams are precognitive, because it did not match anything in your waking life. So the dream is simply forgotten. The result of this process is that you only consciously remember and treat as significant the dreams that match something in your waking life. The dreams that do not match anything are forgotten. So in your conscious memory, in your sense of your own experience, it seems like a substantial percentage of your dreams are precognitive. But this is a distortion created by confirmation bias. The dreams that did not match anything were equally numerous. They simply are not in your conscious awareness. Confirmation bias also operates when you are interpreting the meaning of events. When something happens in your waking life, you interpret it, and your interpretation is influenced by your beliefs and expectations. If you believe that dreams are precognitive and you have just had a dream, you will tend to interpret subsequent events in a way that finds connections to the dream. You will notice similarities and downplay differences. You will interpret ambiguous events as confirming your belief. For instance, you dream about a person you know. The dream is vague. The person is in the background. You do not have a clear interaction with them. You wake up. A few days later, you see this person. You encounter them briefly, perhaps you exchange a few words. Perhaps you just see them, and you immediately connect this to your dream. You think, I dreamed about this person and then I saw them. This confirms my belief that dreams are precognitive. But consider, you know many people. You see people regularly. The probability that you will see someone you know or hear about them or encounter them in some way is quite high. If you had dreamed about that person specifically, the probability that you would encounter them at some point is not infinitesimal. It is actually fairly likely. But confirmation bias leads you to notice this particular match and to treat it as significant, while ignoring the many dreams about people you did not encounter. The many days when you did not encounter the people you dreamed about. You focus on the hits and forget the misses. This selective attention creates the illusion that dreams are frequently precognitive, when what is actually occurring is that you are selectively attending to the cases where dreams match waking events and ignoring the cases where they do not. Confirmation bias also influences how you search for information. If you believe that dreams are precognitive, you are more likely to seek out information that confirms this belief. You might search for articles about precognitive dreams. You might read books about dream interpretation. You might watch videos about people who claim to have had precognitive dreams. This information is often anecdotal. It is based on people's reports of their own experiences, which are subject to all the memory distortions and confirmation biases we have already discussed. But you treat this information as evidence that dreams are precognitive. You do not seek out information that contradicts this belief with the same enthusiasm. You do not search for scientific explanations of why dreams might seem precognitive without actually being precognitive. Or if you do encounter such information, you tend to interpret it skeptically, to find reasons to doubt it, to focus on its limitations. The result is that your information environment becomes skewed. You encounter more information that confirms your belief than information that contradicts it. This makes your belief feel more justified, more supported by evidence. But what is actually happening is that your confirmation bias is actively shaping your information environment to confirm your existing beliefs. Understanding confirmation bias does not mean you can easily overcome it. Confirmation bias is not a flaw that you can simply choose to eliminate. It is a fundamental feature of how human minds work, but understanding it can help you recognize when it might be operating. It can help you notice when you are selectively attending to information that confirms your beliefs. It can help you deliberately seek out information that contradicts your beliefs, even though your mind will resist this naturally. And it can help you understand that the feeling that dreams are precognitive, while real and compelling, might be partly a product of confirmation bias rather than evidence that dreams actually predict the future. The frequency illusion. Why coincidence feels like destiny. Deep in the night as you sleep and dream, your brain is generating narratives. These narratives contain vast amounts of detail. They reference people you know, places you have been, situations you have encountered, emotions you have experienced. These details are drawn from the vast database of information stored in your memory, from your experiences, from things you have learned, from things you have observed. Your brain is not trying to predict the future. It is simply generating content based on the information available to it. Now consider the sheer volume of information in your waking life. You encounter hundreds of people, either directly or through media. You see faces on screens. You read names in articles. You hear about people from friends. You visit many places. You see photographs of places. You encounter situations and events constantly. You read about current events. You observe other people's lives. You experience your own challenges and opportunities. The information density of modern life is extraordinarily high. You encounter more information in a single day than your ancestors encountered in a lifetime. Given this vast information density, given the fact that your dreams contain references to people and places and situations from your past, given the fact that you are constantly encountering new people and places and situations, what is the probability that at least one detail from one of your dreams will match at least one event in your waking life? This is a question of probability and statistics, and the answer is, it is actually quite high. Let us think through the mathematics more carefully. You have, on average, 4 to 6 REM periods each night. During each REM period, you might have multiple dreams, so you might have somewhere between 4 and 20 dreams per night, depending on the night and on individual variation. Let us say you have roughly 10 dreams per night on average. Over a year, that is approximately 3,600 dreams. But most of these dreams you do not remember. You might remember only a small percentage of your dreams. Let us say you remember maybe 1 or 2 dreams per night on average. That is roughly 300 to 700 dreams you remember per year. These remembered dreams contain details. They reference specific people, specific places, specific situations, specific emotions. Now, consider your waking life. How many significant events occur in your life in a year? How many people do you encounter? How many places do you visit? How many situations unfold? The number is very large. If you include not just direct personal experiences, but also things you hear about through other people, things you read about, things you see in media, the number of events and situations you learn about is enormous. Given this vast number of waking events, given the vast number of remembered dreams, given the fact that both dreams and waking events reference a similar set of people, places, and situations from your past, what is the probability that at least one detail from one of your remembered dreams will match at least one waking event? Mathematically, this probability is actually quite high. If dreams are generated randomly from your memory and waking events are drawn from your actual life, then some matches are statistically inevitable. The remarkable thing would be if there were no matches at all. But here is where human intuition fails. Human brains are not good at understanding probability and statistics. Your brain is not good at thinking in terms of large numbers and abstract frequencies. Your brain is good at remembering specific cases, specific instances. So when you remember a dream that matched a waking event, this specific case feels compelling. It feels significant. It feels like evidence. But it is not evidence of precognition. It is evidence that probability and statistics are operating as expected. This phenomenon is called the frequency illusion, or sometimes the Bader-Meinhof effect. It is the phenomenon by which once you become aware of something, you begin to notice it everywhere. Once you start paying attention to the ways that dreams match waking events, you begin to notice such matches more frequently. But this is not because dreams are actually becoming more precognitive. It is because you are paying more attention to matches and less attention to mismatches. Your selective attention is creating the illusion that matches are more frequent than they actually are. Consider another example of the frequency illusion. You learn a new word, suddenly you begin to hear that word everywhere. You hear it in conversations, you read it in articles, you hear it on television. It seems like the word has suddenly become more common. But of course, the word has not become more common. The word was always there in your environment. You simply were not paying attention to it before. Now that you are aware of the word, you notice it. Your selective attention creates the illusion that the word has become more frequent. The same process operates with dreams and coincidences. Once you are aware of the idea that dreams might be precognitive, once you are primed to notice matches between dreams and waking events, you begin to notice such matches more frequently. But this is not because dreams are actually becoming more precognitive. It is because your selective attention is creating the illusion that matches are more frequent than they actually are. Furthermore, there is a phenomenon called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Imagine a man shooting at the side of a barn. He fires many shots randomly with no particular aim. Then, after he has fired all his shots, he draws a target around the cluster of shots that happen to land closest to each other. He then steps back and says, "Look how accurately I'm shooting. The cluster of shots looks like it was aimed at that target." But of course, the target was not there before the shots were fired. The target was drawn to match the shots. This is a fallacy in reasoning. It is not evidence of accurate shooting. The same kind of fallacy operates with dreams and precognition. You have thousands of dreams. You have thousands of waking events. You then look for matches between dreams and waking events. When you find a match, you treat it as evidence that dreams are precognitive. But you are drawing the target after the shots have landed. You are looking through a vast number of dreams and a vast number of events and finding matches that are statistically inevitable. Then you treat these inevitable matches as evidence of something remarkable. To truly test whether dreams are precognitive, you would need to make a prediction before the waking event occurs. You would need to say, "I had this specific dream, and I predict that this specific waking event will occur." Then you would need to see whether the prediction comes true. If you did this systematically, if you made specific predictions based on specific dreams, and you kept track of how many predictions came true versus how many did not, you could calculate whether the success rate was higher than what would be expected by chance. But this is not what typically happens. What typically happens is that you have a dream, And then later you notice something in waking life that seems to match the dream, and you interpret this as evidence of precognition. The frequency illusion combined with confirmation bias creates a powerful illusion. You selectively remember the dreams that match waking events. You selectively attend to the ways that dreams match waking events and downplay the ways they do not. You interpret ambiguous matches as confirming your belief. And all of this creates the overwhelming sense that dreams are frequently precognitive, even though what is actually occurring is the statistical inevitability of some matches occurring between a vast number of dreams and a vast number of waking events. Emotional intensity and dream vividness. The dreams you remember most vividly are not random. They are not a representative sample of all the dreams you have. The dreams you remember most vividly are the dreams that have strong emotional content. This is not a coincidence. This is how your brain is designed. Your brain has evolved to prioritize emotional information. Emotional experiences are remembered better than neutral experiences. Emotionally intense events become encoded in memory more strongly. And this principle applies to dreams just as much as it applies to waking experiences. This emotional prioritization of memory has evolutionary roots. In the ancestral environment, emotionally intense experiences were often the ones that mattered most for survival. If you had a frightening experience, it was important to remember it vividly and in detail, so that you could avoid similar situations in the future. If you had a rewarding experience, it was important to remember it vividly, so that you could seek out similar situations. Experiences that did not carry emotional weight were often not as important for survival, so they were not prioritized in memory. Over millions of years of evolution, your brain developed mechanisms that prioritize the encoding and retention of emotionally intense experiences. The brain structure that plays a key role in this emotional prioritization is called the amygdala. The amygdala is an almond-shaped structure located in the temporal lobe, deep within the brain. The amygdala is intimately involved in the processing of emotion, particularly emotions like fear and anxiety. When you experience something emotionally intense, the amygdala becomes highly active. This activation of the amygdala influences how that experience is encoded in memory. The amygdala sends signals to other parts of the brain that are involved in memory formation, essentially saying, "This is important, remember this vividly, encode this in detail." The result is that emotionally intense experiences are remembered more vividly and more accurately than emotionally neutral experiences. This principle applies strongly to dreams. Dreams that have strong emotional content are remembered better than dreams that are emotionally neutral. If you have a dream that makes you feel anxious or afraid, you are more likely to remember that dream. If you have a dream that makes you feel joyful or excited, you are more likely to remember that dream. If you have a dream that is emotionally flat, you are less likely to remember it. The dreams in your conscious memory are therefore skewed toward the emotionally intense dreams. Moreover, the emotional intensity of a dream influences how you think about the dream after you wake up. If you have had an emotionally intense dream, you are more likely to think about it, to reflect on it, to tell other people about it. The emotional intensity of the dream motivates you to process it further, to try to make sense of it, to rehearse it in your mind. This repeated processing and rehearsal strengthens the memory of the dream. It also makes you more likely to notice connections between the dream and waking events. Because you are thinking about the dream repeatedly, because you are looking for meaning in the dream, you are primed to notice matches between the dream and waking reality. Now here is where the connection to precognitive dreams becomes clear. The dreams that are most likely to be remembered are the emotionally intense dreams. The dreams that are most likely to be rehearsed and thought about are the emotionally intense dreams. The dreams that are most likely to be told to other people are the emotionally intense dreams. And if an emotionally intense dream happens to contain details that match a waking event, the emotional intensity of the dream makes this match feel particularly significant and meaningful. Furthermore, emotions can color how you interpret ambiguous information. If you have had an emotionally intense dream about something frightening, and then something vaguely similar happens in your waking life, the emotional intensity of the dream can influence how you interpret the waking event. You might interpret an ambiguous event as confirming the fear expressed in the dream. You might see connections that are not really there, because the emotional tone of the dream is influencing how you interpret the waking event. Consider a specific example. You have an emotionally intense dream. You dream that something bad is going to happen. The dream is vague about what exactly will happen, but the emotional tone is one of dread and anxiety. You wake up feeling anxious. The anxiety lingers throughout the day. You are on edge. You are looking for signs that something bad might happen. Then, during the day, something mildly negative occurs. Perhaps you have a minor argument with someone. Perhaps something small goes wrong. Your brain, primed by the emotional intensity of the dream, interprets this minor negative event as confirming the prediction made by the dream. You think, I had a premonition about something bad happening, and now something bad has happened. This confirms that my dream was precognitive. But what is actually occurring is that your emotional state, influenced by the dream, is influencing how you interpret waking events. You are looking for confirmation of the dream, and your brain is finding it. You are interpreting ambiguous events in a way that confirms the emotional content of the dream. This is not evidence that the dream predicted the future. This is evidence that your emotional state influences your perception and interpretation of events. The amygdala, the brain structure involved in emotional processing, is also highly active during REM sleep. During REM sleep, your amygdala is activated, which is one reason that dreams often have strong emotional content. Your dreams are generated by a brain in which emotional systems are highly active. This means that many dreams have emotional intensity, and because emotionally intense dreams are remembered better, the dreams you consciously remember are disproportionately likely to have strong emotional content. This creates another layer of bias in how you think about precognitive dreams. The dreams you remember are not a random sample of all your dreams. They are the dreams with the strongest emotional content. And these emotionally intense dreams, because of their emotional intensity, feel more significant, feel like they might mean something special, feel like they might be precognitive. But this feeling of significance is partly a product of the emotional intensity of the dream, not evidence that the dream actually predicts the future. Furthermore, if an emotionally intense dream happens to match a waking event, the emotional resonance between the dream and the waking event makes the connection feel profound. The dream felt important emotionally. The waking event feels important emotionally. The connection between them feels emotionally significant. This emotional resonance can feel like proof that the dream was precognitive. But again, what is actually occurring is that the emotional intensity is making the connection feel more significant than it actually is. Understanding the role of emotion in dream memory and dream interpretation can help you recognize when your emotional state might be influencing your perception of a connection between dreams and waking events. It can help you understand why emotionally intense dreams feel like they might be precognitive, and it can help you distinguish between the feeling that a dream is precognitive and actual evidence that a dream predicted the future. The temporal paradox: time in dreams and waking life. Time is a strange phenomenon in dreams. It behaves differently than it does in waking life. You can experience what feels like hours or even days in a dream, only to wake up and realize that just a few minutes have passed. Alternatively, you can experience what feels like a few moments in a dream, only to wake up and discover that an hour or more has passed. Your subjective experience of time in a dream does not correspond to the actual passage of time in the external world. This temporal distortion in dreams is one of the reasons that dreams feel so uncanny, so disconnected from normal reality. This temporal distortion occurs because your brain processes time differently during REM sleep than it does during wakefulness. During wakefulness, your sense of time is anchored by external cues. The position of the sun in the sky provides temporal information. Clocks provide precise temporal information. The pattern of your daily activities provides temporal structure. Your consciousness is oriented toward the external world, and this orientation provides a stable temporal framework. But during REM sleep, your brain is not oriented toward the external world. Your brain is generating an internal world. Your consciousness is focused inward, on the dream narrative. There are no external temporal cues. your brain must generate its own sense of time. The brain structures involved in processing time are not operating normally during REM sleep. The prefrontal cortex, which is involved in temporal reasoning and planning, is relatively quiet during REM sleep. The temporal lobe structures that are involved in memory and temporal sequencing are active, but they are not receiving the normal input from the prefrontal cortex. The result is that your sense of time becomes distorted. Your brain might compress events, it might expand events, it might present events in a non-linear sequence, jumping back and forth in time without the normal constraints of causality. This temporal distortion in dreams is relevant to the question of precognitive dreams because it suggests that the temporal relationship between events in dreams might not correspond to the temporal relationship between events in waking life. You might have a dream in which events are presented in a certain sequence, but this sequence might not correspond to the actual temporal order of events in waking life. When you later recall the dream and try to match it to waking events, you might misremember the temporal order of events in the dream. You might think that the dream predicted a certain sequence of events, when in fact, the temporal sequence in the dream was distorted or non-linear. Furthermore, there is a phenomenon called temporal perspective distortion in memory. This is the phenomenon by which the temporal relationship between events in memory can become distorted over time. Events that occurred at different times can come to feel like they occurred at the same time. Events that occurred in a particular sequence can come to feel like they occurred in a different sequence. This temporal distortion in memory can make it seem like a dream predicted a sequence of events, when in fact the temporal sequence in the dream was different from what you now remember it to have been. Consider a specific example. You have a dream. In the dream you encounter a person, and then you encounter a place. These events feel like they occur in sequence, with the person appearing first, then the place, but the temporal sequencing in the dream is unclear. You might not have a clear sense of how much time passes between these events. Weeks later, you encounter the person, and then weeks after that you encounter the place. You now remember the dream as having predicted this sequence of events. But what is actually happening is that your memory of the dream has been reconstructed to match the sequence of waking events. The temporal distortion that was present in the original dream has been resolved in a way that matches the waking events. There is also a phenomenon in dreams called temporal compression. Many dreams contain vast amounts of narrative and many events, yet they occur during a relatively brief period of REM sleep. Your brain somehow compresses a lot of content into a short period of time. The result is that dream narratives often feel rushed or distorted. Events follow each other rapidly. Transitions are abrupt. Causality might not be clear. When you wake up and try to reconstruct the dream, you might have difficulty remembering the exact sequence of events or the exact timing of events. This temporal compression in dreams can create the illusion of precognition. If you have a dream in which multiple events occur in rapid succession, and then these same events occur in your waking life in a similar sequence, it might feel like the dream predicted the sequence of events. But what might actually be occurring is that your memory of the dream has been reconstructed to match the sequence of waking events, and the temporal distortions that were present in the original dream have been resolved. Furthermore, there is something called temporal perspective. This is the sense that you have of where you are in time, the sense of whether you are in the past, the present, or the future. During waking life, your temporal perspective is usually clear. You know that you are in the present. You know that the past is behind you and the future is ahead of you. But during dreams, temporal perspective can become distorted. You might feel like you are in the past remembering something that happened, but it might actually be something that you are imagining for the first time. You might feel like you are in the future, experiencing something that will happen, but it might actually be something that you are imagining without any basis in actual future events. This distortion of temporal perspective might contribute to the sense that dreams are precognitive. If you have a dream in which your temporal perspective feels like you are experiencing something that is about to happen, this subjective sense of futurity can persist after you wake up. You might remember the dream as having felt like a glimpse into the future, but this might simply be a product of the distorted temporal perspective that was present during the dream. The dream might have felt like a prediction, But this feeling might not correspond to anything about the actual content of the dream or its relationship to future events. The temporal nature of consciousness itself is mysterious and not fully understood. There are deep philosophical questions about the nature of time, about how the brain constructs the sense of temporal flow, about how memories of the past and anticipations of the future shape the experience of the present. These questions are not fully resolved by neuroscience, but what we do know is that time is experienced differently in different states of consciousness. During waking life, your sense of time is relatively stable and consistent. During sleep and dreaming, your sense of time becomes distorted and unreliable. And this distortion of temporal experience during dreams is one factor that can contribute to the sense that dreams are precognitive. Intuition, unmasked, subconscious pattern processing. There is a distinction that is often blurred in popular thinking, the distinction between genuine intuition and false premonition. Intuition is real. It is a real phenomenon. Your brain does process information below the level of conscious awareness. Your brain does detect patterns that you are not consciously aware of detecting. Your brain does generate responses based on this subconscious processing. And sometimes these responses feel like intuition. They feel like you just know something, without being able to articulate why you know it. But this genuine intuition is different from precognitive dreaming. Understanding this difference is crucial to understanding why dreams sometimes feel precognitive when they are actually examples of subconscious processing. Genuine intuition operates through a mechanism called implicit learning. Your brain is constantly processing information from your environment. Most of this processing occurs below the level of conscious awareness. Your brain detects regularities, patterns, correlations in the environment. Your brain learns these patterns without you being consciously aware that you are learning them. And then, when you encounter a situation that matches one of these patterns, your brain responds, and this response can feel like intuition. Consider a simple example. You have interacted with many people throughout your life. You have observed countless interactions between people. You have learned, through implicit learning, various patterns about human behavior and psychology. You can recognize subtle signs of deception. You can sense when someone is uncomfortable or anxious. You can pick up on subtle cues about someone's intentions or emotional state. All of this learning has occurred below the level of conscious awareness. You have not deliberately studied human psychology. You have simply accumulated vast amounts of experience with people, and your brain has extracted patterns from this experience. Now, you meet a new person. They present themselves in a certain way. They say certain things. They display certain behaviors. Your brain, drawing on the vast database of patterns it has learned through implicit learning, generates a response. You feel that something is off about this person. You sense that they might not be trustworthy. This feeling comes to you without you being able to articulate exactly why you feel this way. This is intuition. This is your brain using subconscious pattern processing to generate a response based on subtle cues that you have detected but not consciously processed. This kind of intuition can be quite accurate. Your brain is processing real information. Your brain is detecting genuine patterns. Your intuitive response is based on real data, even if this data has been processed below the level of conscious awareness. So intuition is not mystical. It is not precognitive. But it is real, and it can provide valuable information. However, intuition can also be wrong. Your brain can detect patterns that are not actually there. Your brain can generate intuitive responses based on biases and prejudices rather than on genuine patterns. Your brain can mistake correlation for causation. Your intuitive response can be influenced by your expectations, your beliefs, your emotional state. So intuition is sometimes accurate and sometimes inaccurate. It is a real phenomenon, but it is not infallible. Now, how does this relate to precognitive dreams? Dreams can sometimes contain the products of subconscious pattern processing. Your brain is processing information about the world. Your brain is detecting patterns. Your brain is extracting regularities and correlations from your experience. Some of this processing occurs during waking life, and you become consciously aware of it, and you call it intuition. But some of this processing might occur during sleep, and it might be incorporated into your dreams. For instance, you might have observed subtle signs that a relationship is in trouble. You might have detected patterns in your partner's behavior that suggest that they are becoming distant or unhappy. This pattern detection might be occurring below the level of conscious awareness. You might not be consciously thinking about these signs, but your brain is processing them. Now you have a dream. In the dream, you experience your partner leaving you, or you experience conflict with your partner. Your brain has incorporated the information it has been processing below the level of conscious awareness into the dream narrative. When you wake up, you remember the dream. And then, weeks or months later, your partner actually does leave you or conflict does develop. You might interpret this as evidence that your dream was precognitive, but what actually happened is that your brain was processing real information about your relationship. Your brain detected genuine patterns that indicated that the relationship was in trouble. This information was incorporated into your dream, and then, based on the real patterns that your brain had detected, the predicted outcome eventually occurred. This is not precognition. This is the brain's ability to detect patterns and to anticipate future outcomes based on patterns it has detected. The key difference between genuine intuition, based on subconscious pattern processing, and false precognition is this. Genuine intuition is based on real patterns in the world that your brain has detected. False precognition is based on coincidence, on the statistical inevitability of matches between dreams and waking events. Genuine intuition is accurate at a rate higher than chance. False precognition is accurate at a rate that is consistent with chance. To distinguish between these, you would need to test predictions systematically. If your dreams are truly based on subconscious pattern processing, if they are truly detecting real patterns that predict future outcomes, then your dreams should be accurate at a rate higher than chance. You should be able to make specific predictions based on your dreams, and these predictions should come true more often than would be expected if the dreams were simply random. But when people systematically test this, when they keep track of predictions based on dreams and see how many of these predictions come true, the success rate is typically at chance level or lower. This suggests that precognitive dreams are not based on genuine subconscious pattern processing. Rather, they are based on coincidence and on the biases in memory and perception that we have already discussed. However, this does not mean that your brain is not engaged in subconscious pattern processing. Your brain certainly is. Your brain is constantly detecting patterns, constantly processing information below the level of conscious awareness, constantly generating intuitive responses. These intuitive responses are sometimes accurate, but the accuracy of these intuitive responses is not evidence that your dreams are precognitive. It is evidence that your brain is an extraordinarily sophisticated pattern processing machine. Understanding this distinction between genuine intuition and false precognition can help you think more clearly about your own dreams. When you have a dream that seems to predict something, you can ask yourself, is this dream based on real patterns that my brain has detected? Or is this dream based on coincidence? Is this dream based on information that my brain has genuinely processed? Or is this dream based on information that I have forgotten or that I have reconstructed in memory? These are not easy questions to answer, but asking them can help you develop a more sophisticated understanding of the relationship between your dreams and your waking life. Cultural narratives and the dream mythology. Humans are storytelling creatures. We construct meaning through narrative. We make sense of our experiences by embedding them in stories. And these stories are deeply influenced by the cultural contexts in which we live. The stories we tell about dreams, the meanings we assign to dreams, the expectations we have about what dreams might mean, are all shaped by cultural narratives that have been passed down through generations. Different cultures have different dream mythologies. In some cultures, dreams are understood as messages from the gods or from ancestors. In other cultures, dreams are understood as windows into the spiritual realm. In some cultures, dreams are understood as expressions of the unconscious mind. In other cultures, dreams are understood as meaningless neural noise. These different cultural frameworks shape how people interpret their own dreams. They shape what people expect to find in their dreams. They shape whether people believe that dreams can be precognitive. In Western cultures influenced by Romanticism and psychoanalysis, there is a strong cultural narrative that dreams are meaningful and that they express hidden aspects of the self. This narrative goes back to the work of Sigmund Freud, who proposed that dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, that dreams express repressed desires and conflicts. This narrative has been enormously influential. It has shaped how people think about dreams. It has created an expectation that dreams should be meaningful, that dreams should be interpreted, that dreams should reveal something important about the self. This cultural narrative can influence how you interpret your own dreams. If you have absorbed the cultural message that dreams are meaningful, you will be primed to look for meaning in your dreams. You will be more likely to notice connections between dreams and waking events. You will be more likely to interpret these connections as significant. You will be more likely to believe that your dreams are trying to tell you something. Moreover, there are cultural narratives specifically about precognitive dreams. Many cultures have stories about people who had precognitive dreams. These stories are told and retold. They become part of the cultural mythology. They create an expectation that dreams can be precognitive. They create a framework through which people interpret their own experiences. If you have grown up hearing stories about precognitive dreams, if you have absorbed cultural narratives that dreams can predict the future, you will be more likely to interpret your own dreams as precognitive. The power of cultural narratives is that they shape perception and interpretation at a deep level. They operate partly below the level of conscious awareness. You have absorbed these narratives through the stories you have heard, the books you have read, the movies you have watched, the conversations you have had. These narratives have become part of your background understanding of how the world works, and this background understanding influences how you interpret your own experiences. There is a phenomenon called the expectancy effect, or the Pygmalion effect. This is the phenomenon by which your expectations can influence outcomes. If you expect something to happen, you are more likely to interpret ambiguous events as confirming your expectation. If you expect to find meaning in your dreams, you are more likely to find it. If you expect your dreams to be precognitive, you are more likely to interpret your dreams as precognitive. Consider how this works in practice. You have absorbed cultural narratives that dreams can be precognitive. You have this expectation in your mind. You have a vivid dream. The dream contains various details and images. These details are ambiguous. They do not clearly correspond to anything in your waking life. But because you expect your dreams to be precognitive, you look for connections. You try to find meaning in the details. You interpret the details in a way that creates connections to waking events. You find the connections you were looking for. This is not a conscious deception. You are not deliberately lying to yourself. Rather, this is how the expectancy effect works. Your expectations influence how you interpret ambiguous information. Your expectations influence what you pay attention to. Your expectations influence what you remember. The result is that your experience seems to confirm your expectations, even if your expectations are not actually being confirmed by objective reality. The cultural narratives about dreams and precognition are reinforced through various mechanisms. Stories about precognitive dreams are told and retold. These stories become part of the cultural lore. They are treated as examples of something that is actually possible. They create the sense that precognitive dreams are real and common. But these stories are anecdotal. They are based on people's reports of their own experiences, which are subject to all the memory distortions and biases we have discussed. These stories do not constitute scientific evidence, but they are powerful as cultural narratives. They shape expectations and beliefs. Furthermore, there is a mechanism called social proof or conformity. People tend to adopt beliefs and behaviors that are prevalent in their social group. If many people in your social group believe that dreams can be precognitive, you are more likely to adopt this belief. If many people in your social group report experiences of precognitive dreams, you are more likely to believe that such experiences are possible and perhaps to interpret your own experiences in this light. The internet and social media have amplified the power of these cultural narratives. Stories about precognitive dreams spread rapidly through social media. Communities form around shared beliefs about dreams and precognition. These communities reinforce the beliefs of their members. They provide forums for people to share their own experiences of precognitive dreams. They provide interpretations and meanings. They create a sense that precognitive dreams are real and common. All of this can influence how you think about your own dreams. Understanding the role of cultural narratives in shaping beliefs about precognitive dreams does not mean that you should dismiss these narratives or that you should dismiss your own experiences. Rather, it means that you should recognize that your beliefs and your interpretation of your experiences are influenced by cultural narratives. It means that you should be aware of these influences. It means that you should try to distinguish between what you directly observe in your own experience and what you have been taught to expect by cultural narratives. The neuroscience of déjà vu and precognitive feeling. There is a strange experience that many people report. You encounter a situation, you recognize this situation. You feel like you have experienced this exact situation before. You have a sense of familiarity. You have a sense of recognition, yet you cannot remember when you experienced this situation before. This experience is called déjà vu, which is French for already seen. Déjà vu is a common experience. Most people report having experienced it at least occasionally. And déjà vu is relevant to understanding precognitive dreams, because déjà vu is another example of a situation in which your brain generates a strong sense of familiarity or recognition that is not based on actual prior experience. Neuroscientists have studied déjà vu extensively. They have tried to understand what mechanisms in the brain give rise to this strange experience. And what they have found is that déjà vu appears to be a kind of memory glitch. It appears to be a situation in which the memory systems in your brain are generating a strong sense of familiarity. But this sense of familiarity is not accurate. There is no actual prior experience that corresponds to this sense of familiarity. Rather, the memory systems are misfiring. They are generating a strong sense of familiarity in response to a situation that you are actually encountering for the first time. The brain structures involved in déjà vu appear to include the temporal lobe, which is involved in memory, and the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in evaluating and contextualizing memories. What seems to happen in déjà vu is that the memory systems in the temporal lobe generate a strong sense of familiarity, but the prefrontal cortex fails to locate the source of this familiarity. You feel like you know this situation, but you cannot remember where you know it from. The result is a strange dissociation between the sense of familiarity and the inability to remember the prior experience that would justify this sense of familiarity. There is another related phenomenon called déjà vécu, which means already lived. In déjà vécu, you have a strong sense that you have already lived through the exact situation you are currently experiencing. You have a sense of predictive knowledge. You feel like you know what is going to happen next. But again, this sense is not based on actual prior experience. It is a memory glitch. It is your brain generating a false sense of having experienced something before. These phenomena are relevant to precognitive dreams because they demonstrate that your brain can generate strong senses of familiarity, recognition, and predictive knowledge that are not based on actual prior experience or actual future knowledge. Your brain can misfire in ways that create the illusion that you have experienced something before, or that you know what is going to happen next. This demonstrates that the feeling of precognition, the feeling that a dream predicted the future, is not reliable evidence that the dream actually predicted the future. There is also a phenomenon called the illusion of truth. This is the phenomenon by which repeated exposure to a statement makes the statement feel more true, even if the statement is actually false. If you hear a statement multiple times, you come to believe it more strongly, even if you have no new evidence for its truth. This phenomenon operates on a subconscious level. You might not be consciously aware that you are believing something because you have heard it repeatedly, but the effect is real. Repeated exposure makes statements feel more true. This phenomenon is relevant to precognitive dreams in the following way. If you repeatedly tell yourself that your dreams are precognitive, if you repeatedly rehearse memories of dreams that seem to predict waking events, if you repeatedly expose yourself to cultural narratives about precognitive dreams, then the idea that dreams are precognitive will come to feel more true to you. Not because you have new evidence, but simply because of the illusion of truth effect. The repeated exposure makes the belief feel more justified, more supported by experience, even if the actual evidence has not changed. There is also a phenomenon called source confusion or source misattribution. This is the phenomenon by which you remember information, but you misremember the source of that information. You might remember a fact, but you forget where you learned it. You might have a sense of familiarity with something, but you misattribute the source of this familiarity. For instance, you might read something in a fictional story, and later you might remember the information from the story, but you might misattribute the source, thinking that the information came from a real experience rather than from fiction. This phenomenon is relevant to precognitive dreams because it suggests that you might remember a dream, but you might misattribute the source of elements of the dream. You might think that a detail in the dream came from your own experience, when in fact it came from something you read or something you saw in a movie, or something someone told you. This source confusion could contribute to the sense that a dream predicted something, when in fact the dream simply incorporated information from various sources that your brain had encountered. The brain mechanisms underlying these false senses of familiarity, recognition, and prediction are not fully understood. But what is clear is that your brain can generate strong senses of familiarity and prediction that are not based on actual prior experience or actual predictive knowledge. These are memory glitches, misattributions, and cognitive illusions. And the sense that a dream is precognitive might be understood as a similar kind of cognitive phenomenon. Your brain generates a sense of connection between a dream and a waking event. This sense feels strong and real, but this sense might not be based on actual predictive knowledge. It might be based on coincidence, on memory reconstruction, on pattern recognition, on the statistical inevitability of some matches occurring between dreams and waking events. When coincidence becomes meaningful, the personal narrative. Humans are meaning-making creatures. You do not simply accumulate experiences. You organize your experiences into narratives. You construct stories about your life. You create an identity through the stories you tell about yourself. And these stories are deeply influenced by the meanings you assign to events. An event that seems like a coincidence to one person might seem deeply meaningful to another person, depending on the narrative framework through which they interpret it. The construction of personal narrative is not a neutral process. It is not a process of simply recording what happened. Rather, it is a process of selecting which events to remember, which events to emphasize, which events to interpret as significant, and which events to organize into a coherent story. This process of narrative construction is influenced by your beliefs, your values, your identity, your current emotional state, and the cultural narratives available to you. Consider how you construct the story of your life. You do not remember every event that happens to you. You remember some events vividly and forget others completely. You remember some events in detail and remember others only vaguely. The events you remember are not necessarily the events that are most important or most significant. Rather, the events you remember are typically the events that have emotional significance, the events that fit into your narrative about who you are, the events that make sense within the framework of your life story. Similarly, the meanings you assign to events are not determined solely by the events themselves. The same event can have different meanings depending on the context in which it occurs and the narrative framework through which you interpret it. A coincidence that seems trivial in one context might seem deeply meaningful in another context. A dream that seems like a random product of your sleeping brain in one frame of mind might seem like a precognitive vision in another frame of mind. There is a phenomenon called narrative identity. This is the idea that your sense of who you are, your identity, is constructed through the narratives you tell about yourself. You tell stories about your life. These stories have characters, events, conflicts, resolutions. You cast yourself as the protagonist of these stories, and these stories shape your sense of who you are and what your life means. Importantly, these stories are not fixed. They change over time. As you have new experiences, as your beliefs and values evolve, you revise the stories you tell about yourself. Now consider how precognitive dreams fit into personal narrative. If you believe that you have had a precognitive dream, this becomes part of your personal narrative. It becomes part of the story you tell about yourself. It becomes part of your identity. You might incorporate this experience into your understanding of yourself as someone who is intuitive, someone who is sensitive to subtle forces, someone who is connected to something beyond the purely material. This experience becomes meaningful because it fits into and reinforces your narrative identity. Moreover, once an experience becomes part of your personal narrative, it influences how you interpret subsequent experiences. If you have incorporated the belief that you sometimes have precognitive dreams into your identity, then subsequent dreams that seem to match waking events will be interpreted as confirmations of this aspect of your identity. You will look for evidence that supports this aspect of your identity. You will interpret ambiguous evidence as supporting this aspect of your identity. This is an example of confirmation bias operating at the level of narrative identity. There is also a phenomenon called narrative smoothing. This is the tendency to smooth out inconsistencies and contradictions in your personal narrative to create a coherent and consistent story about your life. If you have incorporated the belief that you sometimes have precognitive dreams into your identity, you might downplay or forget the dreams that were not precognitive. You might emphasize the dreams that seem to match waking events. You might reconstruct your memories of dreams and waking events in a way that creates a coherent narrative. The result is a personal narrative that seems consistent and coherent, even if this coherence has been achieved through selective memory and narrative reconstruction. Furthermore, personal narratives are often constructed in a way that creates a sense of agency and meaning. Humans have a deep need to feel that their lives are meaningful, that events are not simply random, that they have some control over their lives. If you experience a coincidence between a dream and a waking event, interpreting this as evidence that you had a precognitive dream creates a sense that you have some special ability, some way of accessing information beyond the normal sensory channels. This interpretation gives the coincidence meaning. It makes you feel less like a passive victim of random events and more like someone who has some special insight or ability. This psychological need for meaning and agency is not a flaw or a weakness. It is a fundamental part of human nature. The human need to construct meaningful narratives about life is one of the things that makes human existence distinctive. But it is important to be aware of this need, because it can lead to distortions in how you interpret your experiences. It can lead you to see patterns that are not there, to assign meanings to coincidences, to construct narratives that are not fully supported by evidence. Understanding this does not mean that you should try to eliminate narrative meaning-making from your life. Rather, it means that you should be aware of the process, that you should try to distinguish between what you directly observe and what you have constructed through narrative interpretation. It means that you should try to hold your personal narratives lightly, recognizing that they are constructions, that they can be revised, that they are not fixed truths about reality. Living with uncertainty, embracing mystery without surrendering truth. We arrive now at a place of delicate balance. Throughout this exploration, we have examined the science behind why dreams feel precognitive. We have uncovered the mechanisms of memory, pattern recognition, confirmation bias, and probability that create the illusion of precognition. We have understood that what feels like the future speaking to us through dreams is actually the product of our extraordinary brains engaging in their normal, remarkable processes. And yet, having understood all of this, we arrive at a paradox. Understanding the science of dreams does not diminish the wonder of dreams, it deepens it. And we are left with a question. How can we live with this understanding? How can we honor both the scientific truth and the sense of mystery that dreams evoke? This is not a question with a simple answer. There is a tension between the desire for rational understanding and the desire for meaning and mystery. There is a tension between the scientific worldview, which seeks to explain phenomena through natural causes and mechanisms, and the human need for significance and transcendence. This tension has existed for centuries. It exists in philosophy. It exists in religion. It exists in the personal lives of individuals trying to make sense of their experiences. One approach to this tension is to see it as a false dichotomy. One can hold both scientific understanding and a sense of wonder. One can understand the mechanisms by which dreams are created and still find dreams meaningful and profound. In fact, understanding the mechanisms can deepen the sense of wonder. When you understand how your brain generates vivid, emotionally resonant experiences while you sleep, when you understand the extraordinary complexity of the neural processes involved, when you understand that your brain is capable of generating entire worlds, entire narratives, entire experiences that feel completely real, this understanding itself can be awe-inspiring. There is a concept in philosophy called the numinous. This is the sense of the presence of something greater than oneself, something beyond the material and rational. The numinous can be experienced in the presence of nature, in art, in music, in spiritual experiences. And the numinous can be experienced in the contemplation of the human mind itself. The fact that your brain can generate the experiences that it generates, the fact that consciousness itself exists and generates subjective experience, the fact that you can have vivid, emotionally resonant experiences that feel like they are the most real things in the world, even though they are generated entirely within your own brain, all of this can evoke a sense of the numinous. Moreover, there is a difference between saying that dreams are not literally precognitive and saying that dreams are meaningless. Dreams can be meaningful without being literally predictive. Dreams can express aspects of your psychological state, your concerns, your hopes, your fears. Dreams can reveal patterns that your brain has detected below the level of conscious awareness. Dreams can be a form of creative expression. Dreams can be a way of working through problems and challenges. Dreams can be a way of processing emotional material. Dreams can be psychologically meaningful and spiritually significant without being literally precognitive. Furthermore, there is value in maintaining a stance of intellectual humility. We understand a great deal about how the brain works, but we do not understand everything. There are aspects of consciousness that remain mysterious. There are aspects of human experience that are not fully explained by current neuroscience. There are gaps in our understanding, and it is reasonable to maintain a sense of openness to mystery, to acknowledge that there might be aspects of reality that we do not yet understand, while still maintaining commitment to truth and to evidence. This stance of intellectual humility does not mean accepting beliefs without evidence. It does not mean abandoning reason or critical thinking. Rather, it means holding beliefs provisionally, remaining open to new evidence, acknowledging the limits of current understanding, while still requiring that beliefs be grounded in evidence and reasoning. In the specific case of precognitive dreams, this means that you can acknowledge that the phenomenon is fascinating and that it touches on deep questions about the nature of consciousness and time, while still recognizing that there is no scientific evidence for literal precognition. It means that you can find meaning in your dreams without believing that your dreams are literally predicting the future. It means that you can maintain wonder and curiosity about the mystery of consciousness while still being honest about what the evidence shows. There is also value in recognizing that uncertainty is not the same as meaninglessness. You can live with uncertainty. You can acknowledge that you do not know whether your dreams are precognitive. You can hold this uncertainty without collapsing into either credulity or dismissiveness. You can approach your dreams with curiosity and openness, observing them without judgment, noticing patterns, reflecting on meanings, while still maintaining a commitment to truth. In fact, this approach might be more spiritually and psychologically rich than either pure skepticism or pure credulity. Pure skepticism can lead to a kind of dismissal of subjective experience, a reduction of the richness of human experience to mere mechanism. Pure credulity can lead to distortions of truth and to the acceptance of false beliefs. But a middle path, one that honors both truth and mystery, one that seeks to understand while maintaining wonder, one that is open to meaning while being honest about evidence, might be the most mature and integrated approach. The journey of understanding precognitive dreams, then, is not a journey that ends in the complete dismissal of dreams or the complete acceptance of precognition. Rather, it is a journey that leads to a more nuanced understanding. It is a journey that reveals the extraordinary capabilities of the human brain. It is a journey that deepens appreciation for the complexity of consciousness. It is a journey that allows you to find meaning in your dreams without deceiving yourself about what the evidence shows. The dream continues, your journey into the nocturnal mind. And so we arrive at the end of this exploration, Though, in a deeper sense, this is not an ending but an invitation to a new beginning. Everything we have discussed in these pages is an invitation to observe your own mind with greater curiosity and gentleness. It is an invitation to notice your dreams, to reflect on them, to wonder about them, without the need to arrive at definitive conclusions about what they mean or whether they are precognitive. Tonight, when you sleep, your brain will embark on the same remarkable journey it undertakes every night. You will enter REM sleep. Your brain will generate narratives. It will create vivid imagery. It will populate these images with people and places and situations drawn from your memory and your experience. It will generate emotions. It will create the sensation of movement and action. And all of this will feel completely real. You will be experiencing an entire world generated entirely within your own brain, while your body lies still and your eyes move rapidly beneath your eyelids. Most of these dreams you will not remember, but some you will. You will wake with fragments of dreams lingering in your memory. These fragments will gradually fade, unless you attend to them, unless you write them down or speak about them, unless you rehearse them in your mind. And as you think about these dreams, as you reflect on them, your memories of them will be reconstructed. They will be shaped by your current beliefs, your current knowledge, your current emotional state. And then, in the days and weeks following these dreams, you will encounter events in your waking life. You will meet people. You will visit places. You will have conversations. You will experience situations. And sometimes you might notice that something in your waking life seems to match something in a dream you had. In that moment, you might feel a sense of recognition. You might feel a sense that something special has happened. You might wonder whether your dream predicted the future. In that moment, you now have a choice. You can interpret this moment in light of everything we have explored together. You can recognize that what you are experiencing is the product of your brain's extraordinary pattern recognition capabilities, of the statistical inevitability of some matches occurring between dreams and waking events, of your brain's tendency to find meaning in coincidences. You can recognize that memory is reconstructive, that confirmation bias is operating, that the frequency illusion is at work. And you can still find this moment meaningful. You can still find it interesting. You can still reflect on what your dream might reveal about your psychological state or about patterns your brain has detected. Or you can simply notice the moment with curiosity, without needing to interpret it or assign it meaning. You can simply observe, here is a dream and here is a waking event, and they seem to connect. Interesting. And then you can let the moment pass, without building elaborate theories about precognition or about your special abilities. This is the invitation that science offers, not the dismissal of subjective experience, not the reduction of human experience to mere mechanism, but the opportunity to understand yourself more deeply, to recognize the capabilities of your own mind, to appreciate the wonder of consciousness, while still maintaining honesty about what the evidence shows. The journey into the nocturnal mind is a journey that continues every night. It is a journey that you have been taking your entire life, often without conscious awareness. By bringing conscious attention to this journey, by observing your dreams with curiosity and gentleness, by reflecting on the relationship between dreams and waking events, you deepen your understanding of yourself. You develop a more sophisticated understanding of how your mind works. You appreciate the extraordinary capabilities of your brain. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. We have traveled through the architecture of sleep, through the mechanisms of pattern recognition, through the distortions of memory, through the biases of perception. We have examined the role of emotion in dream formation and memory. We have explored the strange nature of time in dreams. We have considered the difference between genuine intuition and false precognition. We have examined how cultural narratives shape beliefs about dreams. We have looked at memory glitches like déjà vu. We have considered how personal narrative shapes meaning-making. And we have arrived at a place where we can hold both scientific understanding and a sense of wonder. If this exploration has brought you deeper insight into your own mind, if it has helped you appreciate the wonder of consciousness, if it has given you tools to think more clearly about your dreams and your experiences, I would be grateful for a like and a subscription to the Relaxing Science channel. And if you have experiences or reflections you would like to share, please let me know in the comments below. Your perspective and your story matter. But more importantly, I invite you to continue this exploration on your own. Continue to observe your dreams. Continue to notice the moments when dreams seem to connect with waking events. Continue to reflect on these moments with curiosity. Continue to develop your own understanding of what your dreams mean to you. The mystery of consciousness, the wonder of the mind, the strange and beautiful experience of dreaming, all of this remains open for your exploration. Tonight, when you lie down to sleep, you might do so with a new awareness. You might notice yourself drifting into sleep. You might become aware of the transition from wakefulness to sleep. You might observe your dreams with a sense of gentle curiosity, neither trying to control them nor trying to interpret them, simply observing them as they arise. And in the morning when you wake, you might take a moment to reflect on what you dreamed, without needing to assign it meaning or to predict the future based on it, simply observing what your mind has created. This is the gift that science offers, not the elimination of mystery, but a deeper understanding of the mystery, not the dismissal of wonder, but a more grounded and mature form of wonder. The nocturnal world of your mind continues its eternal work. Your brain continues its remarkable processes, and you, now understanding more deeply how these processes work, can approach your dreams and your waking life with greater insight, greater appreciation, and greater peace. The dream continues. Your journey into the nocturnal mind continues, and the invitation remains open. Observe, wonder, reflect, and discover the extraordinary capabilities of your own mind. Thank you for this time together. May your dreams be vivid and your waking life be enriched by the understanding you have gained. End of complete screenplay.